We're blessed to have you here in Morocco, in the city of Fez, and it would be our honor for you to deliver a message regarding Hijrah, particularly for Muslims currently living in the West. Barakallahu feek, Sheikh.
If you are also living in a place where your fate is being threatened, that security, not your physical security, but the security of your fate and that of your family and your children, then as well Hijrah becomes incumbent. And modern Western civilization is not only a godless civilization, it is not only a decadent civilization, but it is a civilization with magnificent powers of deception. Oh yes, unsurpassed powers of deception. And it is not content to live a godless and decadent way of life, but it is hell-bent on transforming the rest of mankind to be carbon copies of themselves. Thank you, Samir, for the effort you have made in inviting me to be here. And as I come to Morocco, I find myself falling in love with Morocco, yes. Falling in love with Morocco. The subject of Hijrah is one which is critically important wherever believers are facing persecution and do not have the strength and the power to be able to protect themselves. It was because in Mecca there were those people who were slaves and semi-slaves and could not be protected by the tribe because of tribal law. And they were being persecuted and being killed, that our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, set the example of Hijrah. And he asked them to migrate to a Christian country, Abyssinia. And they went to Abyssinia, and Ja'far, the son of Abu Talib, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, who was not a slave, not a semi-slave, but he probably was sent there to be a leader of their group. And the negus of Abyssinia provided them with security. Similarly, when Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, his uncle Abu Talib died, and the new head of the tribe of Banu Hashim was Abu Lahab, who was his uncle, but who was very hostile to him. And the tribe would no longer give him protection, and his life was in danger. Then he and the entire community of Muslims, they made Hijrah to the city of Yathrib in the north, which is now renamed as Medina. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he destroyed the temple, the idols in the temple, and they built a fire for him and they threw him in the fire. But Allah saved him. He could not continue to live amongst them. And then he made Hijrah with his nephew Lut alayhi salam to a land which Allah has blessed for all of mankind, the Holy Land. So we see the example of Hijrah. If you are also living in a place where your fate is being threatened, that security, not your physical security, but the security of your fate and that of your family and your children, then as well Hijrah becomes incumbent. And modern Western civilization is not only a godless civilization, it is not only a decadent civilization, but it is a civilization with magnificent powers of deception. Oh yes, unsurpassed powers of deception. And it is not content to live a godless and decadent way of life, but it is hell-bent on transforming the rest of mankind to be carbon copies of themselves. So if you are living in the West, you are Moroccan, but you left Morocco because of the British pound, and you went to live in Britain. Or you left Morocco because of the euro, and you went to live in France and in Belgium. You're going to lose your children. You're going to lose your grandchildren. When they come back to visit Morocco, they say, I can't live here. I can't live here. I want to go back home, because France is heaven and Morocco is hell. This is the transformation that takes place. And so Hijrah is incumbent, not just when your physical life is threatened, but when your faith is also threatened.
And finally, Sheikh, the dream that you mentioned to me.
Well, the Surah Al-Kahf of the Quran must be recognized as the surah, as the French say, par excellence of Akhir Zaman. Because amongst the major signs of Akhir Zaman are Gog and Magog, and Gog and Magog are located in Surah Al-Kahf. Among the major signs of Akhir Zaman is Dajjal. And Dajjal is mentioned not by name, so you have to think to be able to penetrate and to recognize, but we don't have the time to do that exercise now. But I've done it in my book, Surah Al-Kahf and the Modern Age. But before I wrote that book, when I was on the way of trying to develop Islamic eschatology, it was 2001, and I was in South Africa with my wife, Aisha. And we were guests in a home, and we had lunch. And our host gave us a bedroom where we could rest, because in the evening there was a lecture. And there were two separate beds, single beds, so my wife was sleeping in one and I was sleeping in the other. And when I was asleep, I had a dream which was a vision. And in that dream, I saw Nabi Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And I was standing behind him, so I could not see his face. And someone came to him and asked him a question about Surah Al-Kahf. And I heard the Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, answering the question. But when he was finished answering the question, I then asked very, very politely, O Messenger of Allah, can I ask a question? And he gave me permission. And then I said, O Messenger of Allah, in answering that question about Surah Al-Kahf, you said this and you said that and you said that, but you did not say this and you did not say that and you did not say that. And he smiled. And he said, you have been blessed with the knowledge of Surah Al-Kahf. This was a dream. This was more than 20 years ago. You've been blessed with the knowledge of Surah Al-Kahf. This was a true dream, because after having this dream, I then went on to write, some 5 years later, Surah Al-Kahf in the Modern Age, and there were people whose lives were changed because of that book. I wrote after that an Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world. I wrote after that a tafsir or a commentary on Surah Al-Kahf. And also I wrote several books on Dajjal since that dream.
I hope that you come back to Fez, inshallah, again and again. The people here really love you. And as you saw today, the mother of one of your students literally crawled up the stairs because she broke her ankle.
Yes, I was astonished. I was astonished at this Moroccan elderly sister with a broken foot. And for me, it was difficult to climb the stairs to come up to this apartment, which is a lovely, spacious apartment, mashallah, Samir, and perfect for me to meet my students and have the sessions here in my visit to Morocco for the first time. But this elderly sister, with her daughter who is a student of medicine, to climb these stairs, and part of it is a winding stairs, and she did it with a walking stick and with a broken foot, and she literally crawled up. I said, MashaAllah, may Allah bless her. This is what Morocco can produce. Yes, people whose hearts have such love for the deen.
فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنِّي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. So flee to Allah, I am to you from Him a clear warner. In the above verse, Allah, the source of all safety, security, well-being and inner peace, tells you, the believer, to run to Him, to escape to Him, and to flee to Him. This begs the question, what should you be running, escaping and fleeing from? Allah tells you in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Do not come close to immorality, both in its apparent and hidden forms. The command, do not come close, or لَا تَقْرَبُوا, is from the word qurb, meaning proximity or closeness. Allah is telling you to increase the distance between yourself and what is immoral. The further you increase this distance, the closer you come to Allah. To the soul seeking excellence, be like the great prophet and father of prophets, Ibrahim alayhi salam, whose statement is recorded in the Holy Quran. وَقَالَ إِنِّي مُهَاجِرٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Abraham said, indeed, I will emigrate to my Lord. Indeed, He is the exalted in might, the wise. Spiritual migration requires a turning of the heart. And when this is sincerely done, it necessarily leads to a physical migration where you have no choice but to turn your eyes and ears away from all that is displeasing to your ever-watchful Lord. Once your heart has been sufficiently conditioned in an environment away from evil, only then can you hope to successfully change the evil around you that so repulses you. Be warned that remaining within the system of evil and hoping to change that system from within will only result in you compromising your own standards and being unable to make a holistic transformation. When we read more of the Holy Quran, we find a verse which for you is particularly alarming if you're living in a land or an environment where you're not able to spiritually flourish, nor are you able to worship Allah as He ought to be worshipped, yet you dismiss or neglect the imperative of moving to another land or another environment in order to improve the state you find yourself in. Allah tells us about a group of people that the angels will be taking to the hellfire, and we're informed about a conversation that occurs between this unfortunate group of people and the angels. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَفَّاهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ ظَالِمِي أَنفُسِهِمْ قَالُوا فِيمَ كُنْتُمْ قَالُوا كُنَّا مُسْتَضْعَفِينَ فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا أَلَمْ تَكُنْ أَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةً فَتُهَاجِرُوا فِيهَا فَأُولَئِكَ مَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمُ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Behold, those whom the angels gather in death, while they're still sinning against themselves, the angels will ask, what was wrong with you? I.e., what happened that we're now having to take you to hell? They will answer, we were too weak on earth, i.e., too weak in the environment we lived in to stop ourselves from sinning. The angels will say, was then God's earth not wide enough for you to migrate from the domain of evil? For such then the goal is hell, and how evil a journey's end. In the above verse, Allah the All-Knowing delivers the following vital message. Committing sins due to personal weakness is directly related to the environment or land that you live in, yet the environment can't be used as an excuse. If, for example, you live in a land that has not only legalized the marriage of a man to another man, but actively promotes the LGBTQ ideology throughout the education system and pop culture, you must recognize that you do not have the power or strength to change, control, or repel this filth, nor protect young children in your family from being indoctrinated, except on a micro level within the walls of your own home. This is part of the weakness mentioned in the verse, presented as an excuse. If you live in a land in which there is no societal pressure on couples to be married in order to stay together, you and your children will live with temptation all around you and no proper guidance on how to be protected from falling into zina, unlawful sexual intercourse. You will not be able to protect yourself or your children from the rampant whispers of Satan, and you will struggle to find positive examples to follow. This is another example of the weakness that some will present as an excuse. If you're living in a consumerist society, drowning in a rat race, where even the 5 daily prayers are a struggle for you to perform, where your preoccupation is the money that you must earn, or the whims and desires that you must feed, and you don't find the time required in order to become fluent in the Quran or the Arabic language, these are all further weaknesses that can be understood from the verse. On the state level, if the country you live in is engaged in war or the funding of war against Islam through a devilish description of war on terror, and if your protests fall on deaf ears because your government kindly allows you to beg for mercy but ignores your pleas while continuing to fund, for example, the Israeli war machine, this is another sorry example of the weakness that one may present as an excuse. When you remain in such lands, realizing that your presence is a benefit to your oppressive government through tax money and other national contributions, you should know that your micro efforts are overpowered by your macro weakness. Allah the Most High is delivering the following warning. Your inability to change the norms, laws, or policies that cause your personal and societal life to be affected by some or all of the above is causing you to fall into sin. And the excuse that you were too weak to make holistic changes and therefore fell victim to what was around you will be rejected on the Day of Judgment, because the angels will ask you, was Allah's earth not wide enough for you to migrate therein? In other words, could you not find another country to live in where a man cannot legally marry another man? Could you not find another land to live in where the Muslims constitute the majority of the population, and therefore examples of halal, permissible relationships, income sources, education, and entertainment are facilitated on every level and easy to find? Could you not find another environment or country to live in where Islamic studies is part of the national curriculum in schools and all staff members are Muslim? Could you not find a government to live under that is not on the front line of the war on Islam, engaged in brutal bombing of innocent Muslims, or funding regimes who show enmity to Allah? Did you ever search for societies where the majority of people you meet, from the taxi drivers to the school teachers to the doctors and nurses to the shopkeepers, are all those who have been blessed with the light of faith in their hearts. If you're constantly falling into disobedience or heedlessness of Allah, then what you must look at is the land you live in, the company you keep, and the environment that you choose for yourself. If you're able to migrate to a place where you can better protect yourself against falling into sin, then it's incumbent upon you to do so. To the believing soul, your migration is towards none but Allah and His Messenger. وَمَن يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ يَجِدْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُرَاغَمًا كَثِيرًا وَسَعَةً وَمَن يَخْرُجْ مِن بَيْتِهِ مُهَاجِرًا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتُ فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. And he who forsakes the domain of evil for the sake of God shall find on earth many a lonely road, as well as life abundant. And if anyone leaves his home, fleeing from evil unto God and His Messenger, and then death overtakes him, his reward is ready with God. For God is indeed much forgiving, a dispenser of mercy. When you recognize that the society you once comfortably lived in is in reality controlled by those who not only disbelieve in Allah, but are immoral, evil, and hateful to Allah, your heart has spiritually begun its migration. And this is the time for you to make a sincere intention for physical migration to a place on Allah's earth where you can worship Him at the highest level that you have the potential to attain. Don't ever feel trapped, for the earth of Allah is spacious. يا عبادي الذين آمنوا إن أرضي واسعة فإياي فاعبدون. O my servants who have believed, indeed my earth is spacious, so worship only me.